Hi there, I'm Raff Donelson, and I'm going to talk to you about one of my papers. If you know anything about legal philosophy, you've probably heard of the fight between legal positivists and natural law theorists, or sometimes non-positivists or anti-positivists. This fight concerns what it takes for some arrangement to be a legal system, or what makes a norm a legal norm or a law. Now, whether it's this fight or some other fight about the nature of law, we have to have a standard for assessing answers to the question. In some ways, this concern about having a standard of assessment has been underexplored. But lucky for you, in the next 4 minutes or so, I'll suggest a standard, or a family of standards, for your consideration. In my 2021 article, The Pragmatist School in Analytic Jurisprudence, published in Philosophical Issues, I introduced readers to a group of theorists who have been pushing for a set of pragmatic standards for assessing first-order jurisprudential claims. Hint, first-order jurisprudential claims answer questions about law's nature, while second-order claims answer questions about those first-order claims. To get a grasp of what this group of theorists is doing, we will address four main topics. First, what is a pragmatic standard? Second, what is the opposing view? Third, why should we want to adopt a pragmatic standard? And finally, how can we respond usefully to some worries one might have about this approach? About pragmatic standards, there are a few. Some have argued that we should select answers to our first-order jurisprudential questions based on the best political consequences, the consequences that would happen if those theories were widely accepted. Some have argued that we should select jurisprudential theories based on the best consequences for legal doctrine. One can imagine plenty more pragmatic standards for assessing first-order jurisprudential claims. What is the opposition? The opposing view I have called in the paper representationalist jurisprudence. Representationalists claim that an answer to a first-order jurisprudential question is right insofar as it accurately tracks what law in fact is. I'll note that most legal philosophers are representationalists, at least officially. Now, there's a debate right now between so-called methodological positivists on the one hand and methodological non-positivists on the other. This debate is about whether one needs moral criteria to decide first-order jurisprudential questions. But note that both of these sides agree that the point is to settle on an answer that accurately reflects what law really is. Because this representationalist view is both commonsensical and popular, why should we want to adopt a pragmatist approach, which tells us to employ pragmatic standards? Now, just as there are a variety of pragmatic standards, there are a variety of answers about why we should go this route in the first place. What they all have in common is the representationists pretty much have ignored them. I'll give a few of them. Some have argued that providing an answer to first-order jurisprudential questions is practically important, but our concepts are not sufficiently fine-grained to offer answers according to the representationalist metric. To put it in plainer terms, the concept of law is too ambiguous by itself to settle important debates, say the debate between positivist and non-positivist. In other words, representationalism as a program fails on metaphysical grounds. It cannot be carried out. Others have argued that answering first-order jurisprudential questions is simply beyond our epistemic ken if we were to take the representationalist approach. Others still have argued that we have important practical ends that simply trump accuracy. That is, there are concerns that we have when answering the what is law question that are simply more important to pursue than accuracy-related concerns when these two things come into conflict. Now, since this is just a 5-minute video, I can't explore those reasons more deeply, though I'm sure you have questions, but you'll just have to read the paper. I also can't respond to all the worries one might have about such a position. I do, however, want to talk about some of the worries one might have. One might worry that there's something logically illicit about answering a straightforwardly factual question on pragmatic grounds. One also might worry that the pragmatist approach requires accepting doxastic voluntarism, the theory that we can believe at will. The way I address these and other worries in the paper is to analogize the pragmatist approach to the situation of a merchant who must decide whether to allow a customer to exchange a broken product for a new one free of charge. The store policy is that if the customer broke the product, she has to pay for a new one. But if the product was broken at the outset, then the customer should get the new one for free. It doesn't seem odd for the merchant to think pragmatically about the question of whether the customer broke the product. A reasonable merchant very well might answer the question by reference to how much money the store stands to earn over the long term. Employing that standard of assessing customer claims, maybe the merchant trusts, in scare quotes, a customer who is a repeat customer. Not because such customers are more honest, but because severing the relationship is more costly than the price of the single item given for free. Note that none of that seems illogical or to require anything like doxastic voluntarism. And that's the paper. I'm sure you have lots of questions still about this paper and whether it really works, but I encourage you to go check it out. Thanks, and take care.